Hey everyone, welcome back to TopherDrives, where today, I can't believe I'm saying this, we are driving a 2003 BMW Z8 Alpina, or as Alpina called it back in the day, their V8 Roadster. This, of course, is based on the famous James Bond car, the BMW Z8, but there are a lot of key differences with this Alpinaized version of the car that I don't think a lot of people are aware of. And in fact, I wasn't even aware of it. There's a lot of lore to this car, and this was kind of BMW's send-off for this platform. This is, in my opinion, one of the most beautiful cars BMW ever made. This was a fantastic era for them, coming out of kind of the 2001 Dream Team era, as Tyler Hoover calls it, and lots of 507 inspired design. But this is just, I'm having to pinch myself a little bit today because this is just absolutely wild. Okay, so let's talk about what makes this Alpina different from the regular Z8. Well, for starters, Alpina took this car that I think was a bit misunderstood, that originally came with the same S62 V8 and 6-speed manual that you would have found in the E39 M5. They took that out, they threw it away, and they replaced it with the M62 from their Alpina B10 5 Series, and a 5-speed automatic replaced the 6-speed manual. So this car that was essentially a big cruiser version of the E39 M5 with no roof became a little bit more cruisery, a little bit more PCH inspired. And maybe that was good, maybe that was bad. I haven't driven a regular Z8. In fact, I haven't even driven this car yet, just out of the door there from the warehouse where it lives. So you guys will be getting my first impressions on this. But I just think it's interesting that this actually made less power than the untuned Z8. So this makes 375 horsepower and 383 pound-feet of torque, something like 15-ish horsepower less than the regular Z8, but it does have more torque, so that should help it be a bit smoother, especially with this 5-speed automatic. Of course, this is rear-wheel drive, and from the outside, it's kind of hard to tell that this has even been tweaked at all. The biggest difference are these beautiful 20-inch Alpina wheels. You always know an Alpina if you see a massive set of wheels, of course, with these Alpina center caps as well. These are slightly staggered. We have a 255/35 ZR20 on the front and a 285/30/20 on the back. We're just on kind of a normal set of Continental All Seasons today. And then the other big difference is just the fact that it says Alpina on the back. The other badges are BMW. There are, of course, some changes in the interior, which we'll talk about in a second. But I do want to pop the hood and show you this M62. That's so weird. Or I don't know if weird's the right word, but it's funny that they took an S engine out to put an M engine in, and not M in the way that you would think. M meaning just sort of like regular non-M car engine. So there it is, the 4.8 liter naturally aspirated V8, an engine cover that you also would have seen on something like an E38 7 Series or an E39 5 Series, like a 540i, 740i. They all kind of looked like this underneath. And the reason that this was the engine that they decided to put in the Roadster V8 was because the V12 wouldn't fit. Alpina originally planned to put the V12 out of the 750iL into this car, but unfortunately, they just couldn't quite shoehorn it in. So they ended up putting the V8 in. So I think this car is a little bit misunderstood. I think there were good intentions for this, and this is what we ended up with. It's beautiful. We'll see how it is, of course, on today's drive. I am so excited. I never thought that I would drive a Z8. This is just absolute insanity for me to be even in front of this car right now. I remember walking by the Bentley dealership in Chicago, and they had a silver Z8, not Alpina, but it was a silver Z8, and it had a factory hardtop on it. And I just stood at the window and stared at it, and stared at it, and stared at it, until my family was like, okay, come on, we need to get a move on here. But that is how beautiful these cars are, and kind of the effect that they have on you. It's pretty wild. Before we jump in, let's actually show you the trunk. Pop that with the key fob. You can see our convertible boot in here, and this car is stored inside, so it has this little cutoff for the battery to be able to make sure we're not killing batteries while this thing is in storage. Dual exhaust. This is one of those cars where it's hard for me to finish the walk around because I just want to be staring at it. All right, let's go ahead and jump in and we'll take it for a drive. So today's mission is going to be to find a coffee shop because we've been filming BMWs for a few hours here at the Heritage Collection in Spartanburg, or just outside of Spartanburg, South Carolina, celebrating 50 years of 3 Series. Obviously, this is not a 3 Series, but it's part of the collection. And I said, can I please drive it? And they said, okay, fine, you can drive it. So that's what we're doing today. I'm gonna go find myself some breakfast, and you guys are all gonna come along with me. I don't think I've ever taken a car quite of this sort to just go and casually get breakfast, but I suppose there's a first time for everything. So we have just a very normal, like E46 looking key, but there's a bit of metal on the back that says Z8. Thought this key felt a little bit heavier. So you stick this up here into the ignition, turn that ignition on. You can see our blue Alpina gauges come to life, and then we have an engine start button right here. It comes to life, the M62. Very quiet, very reserved engine. And just a few little differences inside as well. Of course, it says Alpina here on our airbag cover, but this entire steering wheel is different because every non-Alpina Z8 was a 6-speed manual. Every Alpina Z8 is a 5-speed automatic. So Alpina kind of worked their shift buttons into the back of the steering wheel, which you can feel. You don't push them with your thumbs, you kind of pull them with either your index fingers or your middle fingers here on the back of the wheel. So we'll try out that manual mode once we're moving. We got blue face gauges. These are in the same spot as they would be on a regular Z8, but what's different is this additional gauge here right in front of the steering wheel. That shows you what gear you're in, or if you're in manual mode as well, it'll show you what gear you're in manually too. So otherwise though, we've got Alpina here on the seats, and then Alpina only made 555 of these, and this happens to be car number 500. You can see BMW Alpina Roadster V8, as they called it. Little center console, a couple other little additional cubbies here, an ashtray, I suppose. A sort of person that drives this probably smokes a big cigar every time they go out. Glove box, this one's only done 7,300 miles, so it's a pretty fresh example. We've got our little radio behind a block-off panel. Simplicity done elegantly, I would say, in this Z8. I mean, this is absolutely gorgeous. Well, let's take this thing out on the road and go find some breakfast. I'm gonna get my waypoint set. All right, waypoint is set. Let's get this thing out on the road. But before we do that, let's put our windows up. You'll notice only one window switch over here. Use this little guy to switch you over to the passenger side, and that will roll that one up. All right, here we go. Maiden voyage. Yeah, this is a very deep, grunty V8. Whereas the characteristics of the S62, not quite as much. Taking a right here. And Alpina didn't only take the S62 and 6-speed manual and throw those away, they tweaked other things as well. So we have different shocks in this car. The springs themselves are the same. So it should then, in theory, have a softer ride than the normal Z8. And then we also have a revised steering rack, but the steering actually has a pretty good amount of heft to it in here. I wish I could drive a regular Z8 so I could compare, but my good friend Tedward has a couple of Z8s on his channel, so you guys can go watch those if you are curious. I don't know that he's driven an Alpina, but I know for sure he's driven a handful of regular S62 powered cars. Silky inputs here. I mean, you just get the sense that this engine is so under stress that there's really nothing that would phase it. Not quite 400 horsepower, and that might not sound like a lot, but it is decently quick for what it is. Ride quality here is really nice. Going over some of those bumps there, it looks like we did choose a little bit of a bumpy route here to get to our chosen coffee shop of the day. Bump this into manual mode. This is really cool having this display right here. And this is actually a pretty modern rendition of what we know as a paddle shifter these days. no weird shift buttons on the front of the steering wheel that both do the same thing. Left is a downshift, right is an upshift. Really, really strong power here. This manual mode is actually pretty good. It reacts decently quick for a car that's over 20 years old. I love the gruntiness of this. All right, back into drive we go. Accelerator and brake feel, really nice. I mean, everything's so linear. That's what I've noticed with a lot of these, or actually every old BMW that I've driven now at this point. We've driven a handful since we've been here in Spartanburg. They're all so finely tuned. They're so easy, they're so effortless. Of course, this Alpina is no different. I mean, and that's kind of what Alpina always sets out to do. What do we have here? A little bit of a work zone. I love these blue face gauges. You can still keep a close eye on that temp gauge there on the far right because all of the gauges are pointed towards the driver. We've got these little cubbies. There's two of them in the door panels that pop out. This one has like a little Alpina pouch. I don't know, maybe this was like the key pouch from the factory or something, but that's quite cool. But it's nice to see that with this being like the cruiser spec, there are some places to put things with these couple little cubbies in the middle, the cubbies on the door panels. Now, since Alpina didn't add any aero to this car, the top speed isn't something ludicrous like it usually is. Alpina usually makes cars to go on the Autobahn and burn at 190, 200 miles an hour, but the top speed of this stayed at 160 miles an hour. So, only 160. Can't imagine the people that own these really often take them over 75, 80 miles an hour anyway. I mean, I just really want to cruise in this car. It's a nice top-down experience. It's a little bit blusterier actually than I expected. We do have this little wind deflector in the back, which I thought would maybe, I mean, it's quiet, don't get me wrong. All of our toggle switches here for the climate control, very cool, simple but functional. Twist these knobs, turn the climate on. You can turn the AC on with the switch over here. I just don't really think we need AC today. I'm gonna turn this to cold though, so we can get just cool air from outside blowing in. Feel through this brake pedal. And you know, this is one of those cars where I'm not even upset that I'm behind a semi. I'm just happy to be in it, happy to be cruising. I'm cozy. Seat comfort. You know, these are actually pretty skinny seats for an Alpina. There's not a whole lot of adjustment. Of course, they're just a normal, like, 8-way power seat. But I don't feel any sort of lumbar. There might be some on the front that I'm not feeling, but I don't feel any on the side. This is just top tier cruiser material right here. I do want to get this down into first gear because I suspect it's been starting in second. So let's see what it's like out of first here. Oh yeah, this thing rips. I would say it makes just about the perfect amount of noise. Not obnoxiously loud, but Alpinas always have this certain tone to them, and like even modern Alpinas still kind of sound like this. I mean, Alpina doesn't mess around. When they tune a car, you may not fully understand their intentions, but they know what they're doing. And the fact that they had to pivot from putting the V12 in this car to the V8 out of their 5 Series B10, and they've still managed to make it this good, this smooth, this refined. Don't think that they're half-assing anything, because they are not. does feel a little bit big, this car, but that's because it is big. Tedward likes to call it a convertible E39 M5, and I can see that. I mean, it does just kind of feel like a 5 Series with the roof cut off, but that's cool. You know, I like the cruiser aspect of this car. Oh man, should we drive through it in a Z8? When will I ever have another opportunity to go through a drive-through in a Z8? I think we should do it. Hello.
Hi.
Can I just do a piece of your banana nut bread, please? Thanks so much. Appreciate it. I've done a drive-through in a Z8. Okay, you guys are crazy if you think I'm gonna eat in this car though, so we're gonna park this over here and just stare at it while we eat. To park gear should hold it. I always get a little nervous messing with a parking brake on an old car because you never really know what's gonna happen. So you just shut it off. Turn the key. This is only a start button. This is not a stop button as well. Oh my goodness. All right, let's test out this banana nut bread and see how it is from Bella Latte, which I would have gotten a coffee as well. I suspect this is maybe where you insert the cup holder, maybe, but I don't see a cup holder, so I will not be taking an open beverage here in a Z8. That would be pretty insane. So we'll just eat the bread on the outside of the car. Respect from the Matrix. That might have been the Matrix with the Beams engine. Very cool car. Ooh, it feels quite moist. That is a good sign. Let's see. Absolutely starving. Oh yeah. That's good bread. All right, all done with the banana bread. Wish I could have had a drink, but it's okay. We'll jump back in the Z8 and we'll start heading back and get this thing back to the warehouse where it belongs. Well, really it belongs out here on the road, but at least we're giving it a little bit of a drive time today. Let's get this thing started back up. It's about a 10-minute drive, and it's highway, so we'll be able to see what volume is like at a little bit of a higher speed. It's funny, we have this blank switch here in the Alpina, which in the regular Z8 is a sport button, but Alpina didn't give you the option to have a sport mode, so it's just a blank switch. At least they put something there, a matching little piece of silver trim. I just think that's funny. Nice kick down from this 5-speed automatic, and it honestly, it probably sounds louder to you guys than it actually is in here, but just getting a little bit of blusteriness on the back of my head, but I have a hat on, so that's no big deal. It's almost like it needs little quarter windows, and that would kind of solve the problem, but for the most part it does the trick for a convertible on the highway. It's not deafening me. ergonomically, I mean, visibility out of this car is fantastic. It's a convertible, so you would expect that. But mirror replacement's good. Elbow comfiness, not the best, kind of hard surfaces. But driver's compartment, very open feeling interior. I'm used to my Z3 that, you know, you kind of feel like you're sitting on top of the other person. But the Z8, you've got all the room you need in this thing. Places to put things. I think this car, it does make sense in this configuration with the M62, with the 5-speed automatic. Now, I have to go and drive a regular Z8, maybe I'd change my mind, but philosophically, I feel like this really does make sense. I really, really like this as a cruiser. I mean, casually, I think Emily would just adore this car if I owned it. Would definitely pass the girlfriend test, that is for sure. But even like driving it around in traffic situations like this, it's so easy. It's not a stressful experience. You get used to it. It's even got heated seats, which I will not be using today because I am already sweating as it is. Warning, use this system only when traffic and environmental conditions permit. All right, got it. You've got your DSC off button hidden behind this little door. Volume knob, looks like maybe a TPMS reset or something right there. Button to accept phone calls. That was probably a really big deal back in 2003. Love that you can shift this thing with your hand too, down on the floor rather. Well, this has just been absolutely wonderful. I think we're gonna keep driving for a little bit just because I don't want to take it back yet. See if we can bounce some V8 noise off the trees. Brakes feel good too. They slow this big thing down just fine. Steering is actually very quick. I know Alpina tweaked the steering in this, but I would have expected it to be kind of lighter and more vague, but the steering is pretty dang direct in this car. Very, very smooth changes from this 5-speed automatic. You don't even feel it happening. Oh, but this is just it, man. Like an open country road like this. We've got hay bales on the right. There's gonna be cows up here on the left. Only thing I'm missing is Emily, and this would just be the perfect experience in this car. This is what this car is meant to do. And as much misunderstanding and I suppose hate as this car got in Alpina form, and even in regular form, I mean, there were a lot of people that didn't really understand what the Z8 was. I think there's something really special about a big, heavy V8 cruiser like this one. Cows. Hello, cows. I bet they've never seen a BMW Z8 before. We're changing that for them today. Very lucky cows. There's really not even a whole lot of body roll. You know, Alpina changed the shocks on this car. Spring stayed the same. It feels pretty planted. It's confident. You can cruise in confidence. I think this is actually really, really well dialed in. If you're someone that seeks drama in a car, in a sports car, this is not going to be the car for you. But if you're someone that likes elegance and torque, then here you go. This is the car. Now, you'd have to be one of 555 very lucky people to get your hands on one of these, and they are quite expensive. They're around $250,000, and this particular example, with only 7,300 miles on it, would probably set you back multiple six figures. So if you're in the position, though, it's something cool and unique that you could have that nobody else would. It's interesting also, most of these came to the US. They were all left-hand drive, and the US got most of the allocations. Only a handful of these exist in Europe. I was watching Jeremy Clarkson's old school review of this car last night before bed, and back then anyway, he said only 11 of these were going to the UK. Now that may have changed since his review came out, but it's just funny to me that the US, that was the market for this car. But I mean, it makes sense. It's a PCH cruiser, backroad cruiser like this. It's a very American feeling car. It's basically just like a big German Corvette. Probably the best way to describe this motor. And it has a clock. What is classier than that? Good use of a turn signal there, and you're going to go wide. Careful coming by these guys. Because of that, see that person cut over at the last second? Always got to be careful going past traffic quickly when they're moving slow. There's always going to be someone that's unpredictable. That's the edge of grip for these tires. Long entrance ramps in South Carolina, you can really get up to some serious speed. I've been having to brake at the end of these entrance ramps, but usually you can time it just about right. Trucks will leave gaps, which is nice. And you can squeeze yourself right in. I don't really have too crazy of a take with this car, to be honest. I really just enjoyed driving it around. And that's the thing with this, like, this car is not going to wow you in the way of, like, performance that's going to hurt. It's just a big torquey V8 cruiser that you look cool in. And it's okay for cars like that to exist. Not everything has to be smashing Nürburgring lap records. Sometimes you just want to go out and pretend you're James Bond and go for a very normal sort of cruise. This is a good car for that. It looks excellent. It's absolutely stunning. I mean, seriously, one of the most beautiful cars. I say one of the most beautiful cars BMW ever made, but I think it's one of the most beautiful cars ever created in the history of the automobile. Actually, it was designed by Henrik Fisker. Don't you know? That man was a lot better at designing cars than he was running car companies. I love a good steering wheel with no switches on it either. Just these simple little shift buttons on the back. Nothing else. You got your cruise control switch down here that is independent from the steering wheel. Oh, everything you touch in here is really nice. I mean, these silver blinker stock and wiper stalks. There's a lot of uniqueness in this car from other BMWs of the era. I've kind of compared this to a convertible E39 M5, kind of stealing Tedward's lingo there, but there's really nothing in here that's like copy pasted over from a mainstream BMW. I mean, the key, but even the key's got its own little touch, but all of the switches, the gauges, all the stuff they use on the door panels, the window switches, the shift knob, that's pulled straight from an E46, but we'll forgive them for that one little sin in this car, because otherwise it's really something. This is a really, really special car, and I want to give a big thanks again to Jeff from BMW and just the BMW Classic collection here, all the people that are involved with that. preserving these cars and actually driving them. I mean, 7,300 miles. It's been driven some. They take these cars out periodically. They wash them, they service them, they put tires on them. These are not cars that just sit around and get flat spots in the tires. I mean, this car drives like it's driven every day. It feels very fresh and very dialed in still. So let's give you one final look at this Alpina V8 Roadster, and that will wrap it up for us today. Unfortunately, I don't really want to get out of this car. I kind of want to just drive it all the way back to Michigan, and I feel like I could. This is a car that I would be happy to run a really, really long distance in. All right, well, that was really special. And if you've made it to this point, thank you so much for hanging out for this whole thing. I hope you enjoy this V8 Roadster as much as I do, as much as I did, and will continue to enjoy, but probably just through pictures. I don't suspect I'll ever drive this car again, but I don't know, never say never, I guess. Alrighty guys, well, that'll wrap it up. If you have any questions about this car, leave them in the comments. But that'll do it. Thank you all again so much for watching. We will see you in the next one. Take care.